Thank you. Good afternoon. As Randall said, I am formally with the private sector 20 years, in fact, and this is my first public sector job. And in my private sector, I had the good fortune of building one transit system, 5 transit corridors, and over 120 transit stations. So I'm pretty familiar with TOD and what it takes to be successful. And the title of our presentation, particularly Louisville, is It's Not Odd, It's Infill. If you think about transit-oriented development and where we are sort of in the dilemma of the Northwest Corridor, speaking of the rail corridor, not US 36, is we have the rail realities of cost of construction and sales tax revenues sort of fighting it out on rethinking what rail is. And meanwhile, land use has to sit and wait because land use is dictated by infrastructure. Land use never guides infrastructure, land use reacts to infrastructure. And because of that, it's sort of frustrating, at least from the city of Louisville side, because we have a rail station that's off the US 36 corridor, and obviously we want to see good things happen, and we think politically they think it'll only come with transit. And reality is that's not true. Transit-oriented development is urban infill development that is highlighted by transit and served by transit. And there's many components to transit-oriented development, and transit is only one piece, and it's not the most critical, quite frankly. The most critical piece is infrastructure. You can think of land use and entitlements and getting the land positioned correctly, but it's really the infrastructure, the street network, the block structure, the water, the sewer. Are they organized in such a way that the city can evolve over time? And obviously it's urban design and sense of place and character. And so what Louisville has been doing is focusing in, we've got our zoning in place, we've got all the planning in place, but we didn't really get infrastructure ready. And in this market time, we can actually focus on our infrastructure. So we really have 2 areas within our transit area that we're focusing on. If you think of the half mile around the station that sort of dictates land use, we're really focusing on Old Town and we're focusing on Highway 42. The rest of it is a very stable part of our community that we don't foresee change. We see it as an area of stability. It's really the only areas of change that we want to work at. The first piece is Highway 42. And this is our redevelopment district. It's a tax increment financing. We've laid out an RTD station that really prioritizes redevelopment. We've placed our majority of our parking over 500 feet away from the platform and put room in there for development. The issue is all the infrastructure that was going to come is now sort of in limbo, waiting for what RTD is doing. So the city is very interested now doing a 5-step process of advancing the infrastructure to pay back when RTD does come. If it's 2042, so be it. The first step is really get the ball rolling and not focus solely at the station and take advantage of our existing best location. Our best location is actually at South Boulder Road and Highway 42, the southwest corner. And working with CDOT, we've already got approval to do a substandard signal access into that site and really work on improving the access on our most marketable piece and recognize that's what's opportunities today. The second is connect to downtown. Transit was going to change the character of that area, but more importantly, the bigger change was going to come through the pedestrian underpass that was going to connect Old Town Louisville to the redevelopment district. Right now, being an industrial property, there really isn't incentive to be residential or office. If we can make that connection downtown to build off our restaurants, build off the livability of Old Town, it changes the market. So the city now is working with Dr. Cog. We have funding in place to advance the underpass and ahead of RTD. Next is Highway 42, quite frankly, more important than transit. We have over 30,000 cars a day on Highway 42 that deliver or expose this site to more so than transit ever will, especially the commuter rail line. So in partnership, Highway 42 and the transit system are going to change it. So we've worked with CDOT and we're coming up with what we call a context-sensitive design, a Main Street feel to an arterial, and we're advancing the $300,000 preliminary design next year to finish Highway 42 on the eastern gateway of our Old Town. And then lastly, extending downtown to Pine Street. Really take advantage of our one connection we have today to Highway 42 from downtown. And extending the magic of downtown that's happened to Highway 42 to expose those 30,000 vehicles a day to what Louisville has already become. And we recognize from a land use perspective, we've set the zoning in place, but we're not development experts. And we have written in our PUD for that area flexibility so when the development does come, that is very flexible and working. As long as we meet the intent of our goals, we're very open to changing the densities, changing the connectivity, and working with the landowner to get it right. That was Highway 42. Old Town, we've had the good fortune, it's already transit-oriented in terms of form, we have a very active downtown business association that has developed a very strong program and, quite frankly, an excellent brand in Boulder County that everyone in Boulder County, and now mostly the Front Range, know about. Street fair on Friday nights in the summertime. They know about our winter skate, and it's become a magnet, but we have a DBA that's very much acting like Main Street and programming activities to draw people downtown. We have also, through the DBA, taken back our street in the most affordable way. We put in our patios. I don't know if you've been to Old Town, but we put in patios over our parking spaces. We didn't extend the curb. We added outdoor dining for 9 restaurants in downtown over the last summer. You've seen the patios. This is a picture of the patios. Temporary, only summertime use. We're getting permanent next year, year-round patios. From that, we've seen the water lagoon open their doors and windows to the street, creating the public realm that Louisville didn't have 2 years ago. We've expanded our development cap from 350 square feet in our downtown to 475,000. We've lowered our parking ratios. We've developed a parking pedestrian action plan to extend the reach of pedestrians. The red areas are highly utilized on-street spaces. The green areas are exceptionally underutilized off-street spaces. So our parking strategy is really about extending the reach of the pedestrian and not building more parking supply because no one can afford it. But we can make connections for the pedestrian to take advantage of the parking we already have. And we have over 46 projects identified in downtown. And these are small projects, improving the newspaper vending machines, making connections between the street and the parking lot, affordable projects, and then one not so affordable project, but we think we've got the political will to do this. Our patios, we're now having conversations making the patios permanent year-round. Well, we're coming up to our 20-year cycle of repaving, and we have about a 3-year cycle left on the patios that we currently have. So we see it 3 to 5 years out, rebuilding Main Street on the 700 block, I'm sorry, the 800 block, and taking back and making a permanent public investment in the street and changing downtown. And lastly, it's not about change, it's also about preservation. I don't know if you've been following the camera, but downtown Louisville also is proactively working with the landowner of our historic mill, and we're putting out a grant for a structural assessment, adaptive reuse, in cooperation with the landowner to maintain one of our most cherished historic resources. And we've just sent out that RFP, and we expect answers back in January, hopefully for an adaptive reuse strategy. So Louisville's story about TOD is while the market's down, get our infrastructure right. So when the market does come back, even in its incremental fashion, we can sort of take one block at a time in a reasonable way. Thank you.